Hello, internet people. So this is sort of an impromptu and probably going to be slightly chaotic, but hopefully short vlog. So, earlier this year, the movie Poor Things came out, and Emma Stone has won an award for her performance, but that movie is based on a book, which has a very interesting title. So I'm going to read you the full title of the book because I really wanted to read the book before I saw the movie, because I don't know. I have seen the trailer numerous times at this point, and based on that trailer, I have no idea what to think of this movie. My gut reaction, oddly enough, is I don't want to watch it. I want to see it because I am curious. But the other issue I have with it is something about the trailer just like rubs me the wrong way. And I don't know why. I also briefly read a description of the movie, which could have been incorrect, but based on the description, I was like, that sounds so odd. In a way that makes me uncomfortable a little. So I was like, okay, maybe the best plan is to read the book and then watch the movie, because as we all know, adaptations sometimes stray very far from the source material. So the plan for this hopefully short reading vlog is I'm going to read Poor Things. And I'm actually reading it now because a hold I put in on Libby to get the book, because I was not buying this book, suddenly came in. Like, literally just came in this morning. And so I was like, that's so weird, because it was telling me that I was probably gonna have to wait 2 months. And the fact that I got it in roughly a week makes me feel like no one likes the book, because that is fast. And I doubt all those people bought the book. Now, maybe they got it at their library. Maybe they found another way to read it, consume it, whatever. But it's weird to me that I already have it. I'm like, that was too fast. Because it is, according to Libby, roughly 300 digital pages. Now that doesn't, sometimes that is not correct. Sometimes the page numbers are off just because it's digital. So we'll see. Now the full title of Poor Things, per Libby, is, and I have it pulled up, Poor Things, episodes from the early life of Archibald McCandless, MD, Scottish public health officer, edited by Alistair Gray. I'm gonna say Alistair. Now, this is one of those situations where the editor is actually the author. So it's supposed to appear like a book written by someone else that has been edited by someone else. You understand what I mean. So because Libby was being difficult, I had to pull up the book description on something else. So I have it on my phone. I have so much digital things playing over here. Okay, so this is the book overview. I'm going to give you the full, this is from Amazon. So I'm going to give you the full glowing opening of this. One of Alistair Gray's most brilliant creations, Poor Things is a postmodern revision of Frankenstein that replaces the traditional monster with Bella Baxter, a beautiful young erotomaniac brought back to life with the brain of an infant. See, that's the part I heard that I don't like. Anyway, Godwin Baxter's scientific ambition to create the perfect companion is realized when he finds the drowned body of Bella, but his dream is thwarted by Dr. Archibald McCandless's jealous love of Baxter's creation. What? The hilarious tale of love and scandal that ensues would be the whole story, that is actually in quotes, in the hands of a lesser author, which in fact it is, for this account is actually written by Dr. McCandless. For Gray, though, this is only half the story, after which Bella, aka Victoria McCandless, has her own say in the matter. Satirizing the classic Victorian novel, Poor Things is a hilarious political allegory and a thought-provoking duel between the desires of men and the independence of women from one of Scotland's most accomplished authors. When did this come out? Okay, this came out in 2002. Ooh, that's exciting. Sorry, I just saw a book that I wanted to read is now available on Kindle Unlimited. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. I'm still scrolling. This has a lot of 5s, a lot of not 5s, though that may have been because of purchase. Okay, so that's the book. Presumably that is also roughly the movie synopsis. So I'm gonna read the book and then watch the movie over the course of this week. I'm gonna try and plow through this book. I can read pretty fast on my, it's an iPad, but I'm just reading on that. So we'll see how that goes. I am going to point out to you that while this is the intro of the video where I tell you that I am reading Poor Things and then watching the movie for Poor Things, I also am sharing some baking with you because I made beignets. So the next footage in this vlog has nothing to do with anything Poor Things related. It actually has to do with Tiana, who's on my shirt, because I make Tiana's beignets from the Tiana cookbook. So you're gonna see all of that just for funsies, and then we'll get into the book content. And I have filmed all of that already. So the woman you meet in that has no idea the premise of the book. She doesn't know the full title of the book. She knows very little. She also calls the book the wrong thing initially, and corrects herself. But you will enjoy Catherine pre-Poor Things nonsense. Well, okay. There's a car outside. There's an intersection outside our house and they just honked for no reason. Probably a reason, but whatever. So you're gonna see beignets. They are delightful. They make a lot of noise. And I'm very glad to say that something comes of them, because I was afraid I was gonna start a kitchen fire. It's an irrational fear. There's frying oil happening and I was just like, I'm gonna set the house on fire. But anyway, enjoy slight beignet clips, and then we'll actually get into the Poor Things aspects of this reading vlog. I am concerned. I really dislike the fact that I got the book so fast. It really weirds me out. Like, I'm still waiting for a request I have on what, oh gosh, it's not What Moves the Dead, it's the sequel. I'm still waiting for that to come in and it's been over a month. And so I'm just like, how did I already get this? But yeah, so please enjoy beignets, and then there will be books, I promise. All right, so please enjoy the following clips and hopefully this book / movie analysis. So yeah, gonna go do things. So I hope you enjoy all of that and I will see you at the end of this delightful experiment. Yeah, that works. All right, enjoy. Hello. Okay, so this clip is gonna wind up in a video, I think, that is not, it's not really gonna fit with the video, but I'm sure we'll still be eating these beignets then. So I have probably just informed you that I started reading Pretty Little Things. Poor Things, Pretty Little Things. That's a different thing. But it is still the Disney Mountain Challenge as I'm filming this. And today is Disney characters in the parks or something like that. And I'm really just using this as an excuse to highlight my favorite princess. So I'm wearing a Tiana sweatshirt. I know my kitchen is a mess right now. We have some boxes that I need to empty out. It's a whole thing, but I'm still filming this as I am. So right now I am mixing together beignet batter. Ta-da! I have this set up because I've been filming a little bit for Instagram because I'm gonna make a like how-to video if this turns out, hopefully. But I have to whisk the dry ingredients in with the wet. I probably should have used a slightly different bowl because I'm putting the wet, like I put the wet in a smaller bowl than the dry, which was not intentional. I just wasn't thinking. I frequently use this like specific container when I'm baking as my like primary bowl, but I didn't think about the fact that it is, oh, you have to whisk, that I would have to pour things into it. So it's just getting a little tricky. Though it does have a handle, so that's helpful. But yes, so I'm just making these beignets and I thought I would include it in this video because I've never made beignets before, but I've really wanted to. I'm getting flour everywhere. I'm also probably gonna need a spatula. It says to whisk, but my whisk is like, excuse you, there's too much in here. So I thought I would include this. So I'm gonna get back to my whisking. I'm just like listening to YouTube while I do this. I was listening to Ghouls Night In while I was filming all of the little baking clips, which is fun because Midge Munster does bake a lot on her channel. But I'm gonna go deal with this monstrosity on my whisk, and I will show you them hopefully while I'm frying them, hopefully. So this is my lunch break. That's why I'm doing this. I'm gonna fry them once Chris gets home because I'm hoping that will work, but we'll see. We shall see. There's a cat yelling at me. So I'm gonna go before she decides to jump on this counter. So I will update you on beignets very soon. Bye. Okay, tiny update. I have rolled out kind of. I just sort of like squished it and then cut the dough with a pizza cutter. So it's almost time to fry them. But yeah, so here's the dough. Hopefully these come out. I'm really hoping it works. Okay, I'll try and show you them frying maybe, unless I get too freaked out. I'm really afraid I'm gonna start a grease fire. Like I'm just really, really unnaturally concerned about that. But we'll see. Hopefully it all goes well. Okay, bye. Look, it's a beignet. And look, there are beignets. One of which is super not edible because it's really burnt. But I did it. I gotta flip this one over. But I did it. Okay, bye. Behold the beignets. They actually came out pretty well. They're a little doughy, but try and show you my face. So we're gonna probably look at my dirty dishes. Yep. Hi. That was a really awkward transition angle. We did try them. They're a little doughy. That could be the recipe. It could be that I didn't bake them long enough or my pieces were too big. All of that is possible. I just sort of guesstimated size, but they actually came out pretty well. They taste pretty good. They taste like a donut, like a slightly fluffier donut maybe. So I thought they were good. Krista thought they were good. So they are a success. So I wanted to check in on that so you could see them. So that's the fun baking interlude of this vlog about a Frankensteinian story. Frankensteinian? How would you say that? I'm probably just supposed to say Frankenstein inspired story, right? But yeah, so I'm gonna return you to the Catherine who is reading a book that this Catherine has not started yet. But it seemed weird to start the vlog with this when I could just include it later. So there you go. But yeah, book things coming after this. Bye. Hello. Okay, I'm filming this super quick because I just finished my work presentation and it went really well. So I'm just proud of myself. Also I was drinking out of this for good luck. This is my Cheers Queers cup. This is my second cup of, it's not technically coffee. It's an espresso pod, but I run it twice. So it's sort of like an Americano-ish. But I made one, I put some lavender syrup in it. I did that this morning before my presentation. I'm doing it after. I'm so glad that went well. So to celebrate, besides making myself more coffee, I'm eating our last beignet. They came out really well. They're not perfect. Like, I know they are not perfect fundamentally. They're not exactly how beignets should work. They're a little bit more like a donut in consistency, but I do still think they're good. They have some air in them. They did pretty well for our first time bake. I'm very proud of them. But yes, so we'll be updating you on Poor Things. I've read a teeny bit. I mean like the intro still, but I will be reading some like during lunch. So I will have updates, I swear to you. Also, if you notice my eye, it's not as bad now. I woke up and my eye hurt. My right eye's been bothering me off and on. Like it was totally fine for a few weeks. But I actually had to go to the like urgent care not even a month ago, because it felt like there was something in my eye and it just really hurt. So I had some eye drops left over, and so like I did eye drops, I flushed my eye, I like kept an eye on it. So it's still like tender, so it might look a little funny in some updates if it's like not blinking normally. But I was very proud of my presentation. I'm gonna eat this beignet and do work and drink my coffee, but I wanted to update you because I was proud of myself. Also, I might put my hair up. It was down for the presentation because I wanted to look fancy. But yes. So also I do wear a lot of flannels when allowed. This is a thermal, but when I was doing my Twilight vlog, I basically only wore flannel thermals in photos. Don't ask, it was a whole thing. But yes, so I'm gonna get to work. But next time you see me, I promise I will have updates on Poor Things. I promise I'm going to read the book. It's gonna happen. But I gotta go. So next clip, I promise. Book things. I will talk about book things. Okay. One sec. Okay, my computer monitors are still on and they're reflecting really badly in my glasses. So I didn't have those on before. My right eye that was bothering me like started feeling like really tired trying to read my monitors. So I just put blue light glasses on because sometimes if my eye's feeling weird, that helps. And it is feeling a lot better. But I am done with work, but I'm still like rebooting and checking some things. So My monitors are still on, so I'm just taking them off. I braided my hair to get it out of my way. Then I might put it up in like a bun or something because I need to cook dinner. So end of the workday. And I do have Poor Things updates. So, oh my goodness. So, the story starts by introducing us to the editor. And the editor, who is the actual author, says that it's 1990. He has gotten the book from like a historical man who, like, they talk about this historical society and how they like were saving things from buildings that were going to be destroyed, and they found this little like book with a letter from Victoria Candless. And he sort of like tucked it away because he was working on something else, pulled it back out, and then he wants it to be like published. And so Gray, yes, says that he will publish it, and then he's like, the original volume has been lost now, but it's been published, blah, blah, blah. We put Victoria, because Victoria wrote a letter. So this is actually the story of a Dr. Candless, and at the end of the story will be a letter from Victoria, because our editor has written the introduction and he doesn't think you should have two introductions. So the story itself is like briefly fact-checked by our editor, where he says that I and the historian disagreed. The historian said that I needed to be a historian to understand this, so I became one, which just doing some research doesn't really make you a historian, but whatever, that's fine. He says like he looked up things and he believes that the entire story is fact, as it connects to the actual historical record. But the issue is like some of what he's saying, like this is fact, is because he like can't find records of certain things, which is a fact by omission, does not work, but that's fine. The historian disagrees and says it is a work of fiction with factual elements in it to tie it to the real life. But the idea going into the story is that you and the editor, I believe, are supposed to think this is a true story. So it is the story of Dr. Candless, and it was written in the 1800s. It is supposed to have, per the description of the book, a very like gothic novel-y slash, I want to say it's reminding me of like, so I just read Jane Eyre, but it's not really reminding me of Jane Eyre, but it is told in the same sense where it's like detailing your life for a reader. It's giving me more like, is it David Copperfield? It has been a while since I read that book, but it's just like the dialogue, the wording of things is giving me very Dickensian vibes for some reason. So that's what I'm getting from it. So we have met Candless, who is a doctor, and he is the not legitimate son of a poor farmer. So he's like extra poor. Actually, I guess he's not a poor farmer. His mother, because she's not the legitimate wife of this man, is a poor farmer. I don't know. His father is not in his life. His mother has died and has left him money, and he's going to medical school because he told her he's going to be a doctor. And there he meets someone named Baxter. Now I'm condensing some of this because really the whole point that I want to get to is Belle or Bella. And oh my gosh, the universe is wild. So, Baxter and Mick Candless. It is Mick Candless. I keep reading the Mick. I don't know why he's barking. They have met. Baxter is considered sort of like an odd person in the medical school. He's not really going to school. He is a trained physician in some capacity, but he is not allowed to really like perform doctoral things. He's not allowed to really be a doctor. But he just does a lot of research. His father is a famous and wealthy doctor. And so he is apparently also an illegitimate son. It's like a whole thing that keeps occurring. But they strike up a weird friendship. And then we learn that Baxter has attempted to improve his father's research, which involves 2 rabbits being cut in half and their back ends are switched. And they hate it. And he eventually undoes that. But that's how you learn that he's like experimenting with life. And so later on, and this is mentioned in the intro, that there is a woman who died and like by drowning. So there's some time jumping because they have a falling out, and McCandless sees Baxter, and Baxter invites him back to his home again. And we then meet Bells, or Bella, and oh boy. So Baxter occasionally pulls drowning victims. He says most of them are suicides. That's what he says. Out of the river when that needs to be done. He has done it in this case and pulled a young woman of roughly 25 out of the water. She's definitely dead, but she's 9 months pregnant, and he has brought her back to life after like keeping her body from decaying by putting her fetus's brain in her body. Like, she was dead. He needed a new brain, a la Frankenstein. He put the baby's brain in her noggin, and now she's alive again. Now, McCandless has pointed out that if the baby was 9 months pregnant, maybe he could have just tried to save the baby. And he was like, but why would I have done that? Why wouldn't I just like bring her back to life and save her? Which, I'm not getting into that. Okay. So again, I understand this book is supposed to be like satirizing some things. Like, it's supposed to be, I believe, in some capacity, based on the description, poking fun or like commenting on certain types of literature. But it's just... Ugh. So Bells, as Baxter frequently calls her, is alive and functioning in a 25-year-old body, but she is mentally, at the first point we meet her, probably 5 years old. And he's like, that's happened in 5 months. She's rapidly growing more intelligent, and it's just weird. And it gets so much weirder because we learn that Baxter and like McCandless comes to this understanding that Baxter wants to make her like his wife. Like, he wants her to be his companion. And he's like, well, yes, but we'll take our time, blah, blah, blah. I just want her to adore me. Because he was obsessed with this image of Ophelia when he was a child, and he rarely got to see fiction or women at all who are not just like nursemaids. And so he wants her to dote upon him, like be so obsessed with him, I suppose, that she can't not look at him adoringly. So Baxter then freaks out and is like, I can't let you do that. Like, you can't have her as a companion slash wife eventually. That's weird. But Baxter is somehow already in love with her because he's obsessed with her now, and also he wants her. And I'm like, that's so very weird. She is an adult person, but the brain you put inside her is an infant. Like, it was an infant brain. And the idea is like, it's a new brain. It doesn't have any experiences, but like the body remembers. And I'm like, oh my good Lord. Because in Frankenstein, we use adult brains. It's adult brains. You use adult, fully formed brains. And so they're like, now both obsessed with her. And then there's kind of a time jump because Baxter planned a whirlwind voyage so that Bells, as he calls her, her brain could grow, her understanding of the world could grow. Yet somehow in that 3 years, she's only evolved to like the intelligence level of like a 12-year-old roughly, which is interesting because she advanced roughly 5 years in 6 months, and now it's like very slowed. But yeah. But it turns out she's been having these romances where she like does things. I reread the sentence that was supposed to explain that to me multiple times, and it was confusing. She like just does things, the romantic things. She has like, she's very sexual as a being, which makes no sense to me. I don't understand. So she does a thing in the bushes with McCandless, and then they become betrothed, and that destroys, oh, I got it backwards. She does a thing in the bushes with McCandless. Sorry if I confuse their names. And that has broken Baxter so completely. And now he's like, fine, you're engaged. But where I am in the story, she is going to elope with this slimy clerk from the law firm that Baxter had his will done at so he could leave everything to Bella. And I would like to point out, the reason that the universe is small is I feel like I'm being haunted by Twilight. Because, one, her name is Bells. She gets called Bells. Like Bella from Twilight. But also, she compares herself and Baxter to Catherine and Heathcliff. And she's like, no, that makes so much sense. Like, it does. I can't be with him. I don't like him that much. And I'm just like, whoosh, good Lord. So that's where I am. McCandless is supposed to woo her so she doesn't run off with the lawyer. Yeah. Yeah. I just don't. It's just making me very uncomfortable because I'm like, I understand the body is 25 years old. The brain in her is not. And even McCandless is like, she only has the mental capacity of a 10-year-old. And I'm like, then why do you want to get with her? Why? Why do you want that to happen? Do you want to explain that to me? I don't like it. It's making me exceptionally uncomfortable. I'm going to keep reading, but I don't like it. I was concerned this would happen, and I don't like it. So we're gonna keep plowing through. Gonna do that. The illustrations are also odd and keep throwing me off. There's like anatomical ones and then like very odd portraits. And I'm just like, oh, okay. It's just odd. Like, it's just throwing me off. I kind of wish they weren't there. Like, I don't need them. I would much prefer to just read the text at this point. But yeah, we're gonna try and plow through more of this book so I can hopefully watch the movie before this week is over. Though it is not making me more excited to watch the movie. I'm gonna throw that out there. The next time you see me, I will probably be in different clothes. And I'll put my rings back on. I took my rings off, my like wedding ring, my wedding band, the Bella ring, admittedly, that I bought and have been wearing, because I was doing some dishes and I just like took them off so I could put lotion on after, and I haven't put it back on. But I'm gonna go because I need to start prepping dinner, and then hopefully I will read more of this. Kind of just want to be done with it. Like, I'd like to just plow through the whole thing today. But I also don't want my eyes to get that tired. I'm gonna keep my glasses. I may be wearing them in other clips. But yeah, I'm gonna go. And I will have more updates for you on this book that is really just making me uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. Alright, gonna go. Good morning. I'm making coffee. I'm about to get to work. But I wanted to let you know I don't hate the book anymore, which is so weird. Okay, so and the reason I don't hate it anymore is I've actually made it past the, I believe, the satire of a Victorian or Gothic novel. The vibe he's going for just gives me weird Dickensian. I'm through that part, which is so weird. So I think when I left you, I had said like Belle was running off with some lawyer. So they did that. And then that was told to us sort of through letters and then like summarizations of Baxter, who she always calls God because it's Godwin Baxter. So God was recapping everything for us. And so like she goes and then like the lawyer winds up losing all his money because he's a gambler. She winds up working, I'm super condensing this, she winds up working at a pay-to-stay hotel. I'm gonna assume you know what that means. Then, like, while this is going on, she's also on a boat where she meets some men who teach her. There's a cat up here. This is Binks. He wants to climb in the window and he's not allowed. Oh, he's going on the floor. So she's like on a boat where she like meets two other men who like teach her things. It's just like, we get a bunch of like theories of the world. Like, it's all a lot of like different political systems and like colonialism, and it's a whole thing. And then Belle winds back up, like as soon as the letter arrives. She has said she's like coming to Godwin so she can marry Candle, because that's what she calls McCandless. And then she like suddenly appears and she's like, because she's mentioned this, she's like, Witter, the lawyer. She's like, he told me I'd had a baby because she has a cut on her abdomen. And she's like, what happened to my baby? And in that, Godwin tells her like the baby died. And yeah, he has like a fit about it, like a nervous fit. And then Belle and Candle are supposed to get married, and then people show up. I'm putting lavender syrup in my coffee. Ta-da. Just because I want to. And she's like, she learns that she is someone named Victoria. It's all very dramatic. She was shot in the foot. She winds up getting, because the like original husband is like, no, you can't be with him, but then they wind up not being, it's like a whole thing. There's like drama and chaos, and we learn that he was probably a horrible husband who was having an affair, because Godwin / Baxter was having him investigated because he figured out who Victoria was, and like it's a whole chaotic, like, this is who she used to be. And then she reveals like, no, that man was at the brothel. And so he does not want to be with her because she was at the brothel and knows his desires, even though they were married, but he didn't want her to know them. So none of that I was a fan of, but like it basically ends with like them getting married, blah blah blah. So like, oh, there's a cat hair in my mouth. So all you need to know really at the end of it is like Candle gets what he wants. Like they got married, and then Baxter / Godwin does die. So that's like the end of the story. Like it really, like the end of the thing that made me think of like a Dickensian This Is How My Life Went, even though it was kind of like this is how Belle's life went, like this whole thing. But now I'm in Belle's, aka Victoria, because she's going back to Victoria's letter about the book her husband had written, and she's like, that book is ridiculous. Like, I wish I had burned it, but I didn't because he loved it. But like, I married him because I did love him, and we just kind of got used to each other, but like, he wasn't doing anything else, so he did these books, and like, what? And in the book, she's like, no, my name was always Victoria. Godwin changed it to protect me, and none of those things happened. Like, she's like, I ran away. Like, he was hired to come do a surgery on her because she kept having hysterical pregnancies, which would mean she like appears pregnant but there's no baby. And so they're supposed to do something which I don't think would have actually helped with the hysterical pregnancies, but whatever. And he's like, I can't do this. I'm not going to do the surgery to you. It really won't help. Like, he's like, I'm not doing that to you. And so she winds up running away to him, and then he takes her in and tells his staff, like, pretend she is like a cousin to me or a niece to me. And so she's just living with Godwin, or she does meet Candle. And then she actually did have feelings for Godwin, and he was like, no, because she wanted to have a child with him, and he was like, no, we're not having a child, I'm too sickly, go away. And so she does wind up having children with Candle, and we are like seeing her life from that point, though in her letter, Candle has just died, so she's saying like she'd read everything, but she's already told us like her sons have done very well for themselves. They've taken after her and not their father, because she thinks Candle was kind of a layabout, because he really only held the title that he lists at the start of this book for about a week, and then he had the money, so he didn't want to do anything ever, because they got Godwin's money. So she's like, no, he didn't really do anything, and then he got sick, and then he could have lived longer, but he just kind of gave up. So that was my husband. Like, she has no desire to really talk about him, but she wants to correct all of the nonsense he said in his little book, and that I am loving. I'm loving just this section of the book. So I have to finish that. I'm gonna try and finish it during lunch because it's not a big section. That's what bothers me. The letter is so much shorter than everything else. But I'm gonna read that hopefully during lunch, and then I will be able to report back about my thoughts on the rest of Victoria's letter about how inaccurate the story I just read is, which I do enjoy. I just wish the story that was inaccurate was shorter. All right, I'm gonna go drink my coffee. Bye. Hello, you are getting another weird computer angle shot. Literally, work just finished, so I can actually give you my thoughts because I finished Poor Things. And you know how I was like, this morning I was like, I actually like it again. I was an idiot. Okay, so this book, I understand that like the idea of it is like it is supposed to apparently like satirize, I believe that's actually the description I read you, like Victorian fiction. And like it draws from a number of sources. And in the letter that Victoria writes, she even says that her husband's book basically ripped off all of these books, and she rattles off like so many like famous books, famous authors that have elements of like Frankenstein things or science or whatever. But the letter that I was so excited about, not very long at all. And in it, Victoria is basically arguing that everything is made up. She just says like, she basically retells the story to you in what would seem much more logical. She was staying with Godwin. Eventually her husband died so she could marry Candle, which is just what I'm going to call him. And they eventually got together. But the reason that Godwin was so upset is because he didn't really want her bringing more people into the house. He actually wanted her to leave because she was exhausting him because he was already so ill. And like, okay, that does make sense. And like the story evolves and she's kind of just like retelling, like she just retells the story to you. She also says that the lawyer who they say is now dealing with psychological break, kind of. She visits him, he's fine. She believes he actually faked it a bit to get out of his debts, and now it's like sort of like real. She talks about the death of Godwin. She just sort of like it retells the story, and then it's just kind of like, yeah. And then like mentions the point that she had lived to. And then I thought the book was over. Like I was like, oh, that's weird. Like there's still so many pages left. And then there are a bunch of illustrations. So I was like, okay, maybe this is a book that ends with lots of illustrations. Like, or there's gonna be like weird footnotes or something. There kind of are. And I hated them. So at the end of the book, it's then like passages or sentences that were used in parts of Victoria's letter. A little bit of that happens, but mostly from the book aspect that you have read. And it's just like trying to prove so much of it was like historically accurate, or like how our editor believes that through this volume he can prove that these things happened, or like this is all completely logical, all of this stuff. And then there's like a bunch of history thrown in, and then like things about characters I didn't care about, and I'm like, this is so long. And so I'm just like reading and reading and reading, and I get to a point where then he's commenting on Victoria's letter. So there's a footnote, and that section is huge. Sorry, there, I just noticed there's a spider on my ceiling, and I'm like, but he like gives us this history of Victoria outside of her letter, where we like learn she wrote all these documents, and like she was like all this stuff, like talks about her sons, how she was trained and training other women, the work she did, and how she became like a scandalous person in the media. And then she basically went into hiding / retirement, where she ran like basically a vet clinic, but like saw a couple people who didn't really like have any medical issues. She called them hypochondriacs, and she's basically out of the public eye. And then she like wrote a letter and she died. And then to like make us tie Victoria to the Bella from the other story, she's written a pamphlet kind of thing where she says cuddling and weddings in the way that that version of her did. And I'm like, okay, you just like really want me to believe that the thing I didn't like is the truth. And then we like get to the like ending of the story, and then he's like, and then this is how, like the letter where Victoria says she's dying, and then they're like, when she died, her body was taken, and her brain was proved to be 66 or something years old, and her actual body was 92. And I was like, I don't care. Like, I understand that, like, I suppose in theory, this book is not to be taken seriously at all. But I would much have preferred the book just end with Victoria's letter, and then the editor, like, leaving it up to us to determine if perhaps Candle was telling the truth, and Victoria was just like, this is ridiculous, I don't want people to know this stuff, and like covering it up by giving her own account, or that he just was having flights of fancy and wrote this thing, and then like she hated it. Like the footnotes were, they're not even really footnotes, I guess, but whatever they were, I didn't like them, and it just took forever. And then I finished the book and I was like, I'm finally done now. I'm done. Great, I'm done. Like, I wish it had just ended with her letter. I would be less annoyed if we just ended with Victoria's letter, and I could, as the reader, just decide if I think the original story is true, Victoria's account is true, if they're both a little true, whatever. But then the ending decides to hit me over the freaking head with the fact that, well, obviously Victoria was made via Frankensteinian nonsense. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. And like, I get that this is supposed to be clever or whatever, but it's just slog. Like, I wasn't enjoying it, which is driving me up a wall, because I thought I would at least like enjoy aspects of the story, but it's just so verbose. Even if it is a satirization of the fact that there are a number of Victorian books that are verbose. They give you too much info. They give you too much history. They give you too much to think. Like, if you want to satirize them, fine, I get it. But also, make the book shorter, because it's too long. And I didn't need all the pictures. Didn't want them. It was just a frustrating book to read. And like, also, I almost wonder if it would have frustrated me less if a woman was the author. And I only say this because the way it is set up, the idea is that they have created a very feminist woman who everyone sees as like a suffragette. They don't think she's married or has children because they think she's someone who would have shunned that because she's such a huge suffragette, political person, blah, blah, blah. So like, I'm like, okay, but also like, we set it up that these men made her technically like only men influence her brain ever. She's barely interacting with women. She does mention that there is a woman, her piano instructor, who in both versions she says she had a relationship with. So she's like flexibly attracted to people, because I'm not identifying her in any capacity because I don't know that it really matters. But like, she's had a relationship with a woman. I don't know if a woman had written it, if like maybe the story would be told differently. She would be interacting with more women and fewer men. If we would see this being not come into her sexual desires until her brain was at least teenage age, as opposed to when they're like, she's already had so many relationships, and he's like, she has the mental capacity of a 10-year-old, and I'm like, leave. And I'm like, she denounces that kind of, because she's saying that she was never not Victoria. But then what confounds me is she also has these memories she relates in the letter, which she could have made up if she is technically the version of her that has a baby brain. But like, she shouldn't have any memories at all. Like, I'm like, I don't understand. I just didn't like it. I really didn't. I was so excited. Like, I liked her letter. I liked the like snarky, he made all this up, like, my husband is ridiculous. Like, that was fine. But like, the whole rest of it, did not care. Did not care about the footnotes. Didn't want them. Didn't need them. Like, we could have just given me the straight out history of Victoria. If you really wanted to end it with her brain was different age than her body, fine, put that at the end. But don't make me slog through your freaking footnotes. They don't matter. Like, they didn't matter. None of it mattered. He'd already done that in the introduction. Like, he'd already told me that he'd researched things, and that's fine. I didn't need more. Ugh. So I didn't like the book. I didn't like it. And now I'm gonna watch the movie. Not like right now. I don't know. I have stuff I have to do tonight, and I don't really want to start it while I'm cooking dinner because I'm filming this before I do that. And I don't really want to have it on when the dogs are out. So, a little fun fact for you. One of our dogs is slightly reactive to the TV. So like certain things on TV like confuse him. And it typically happens if there's like really dramatic music. He gets, somehow the music, it's always music. He gets very like, what's happening? What's going on? And then like if an animal appears, he will frequently bark at the TV. Like, why is that on the TV? And there are dogs in this book, like a lot of dogs. And so I really can't put it on. And I don't want to penalize him so I can watch this movie. Like, I'd rather him get to play and have fun than like not, because that's mean. So I think I'm just gonna watch it tomorrow, and then I will give you final thoughts of the movie and the book, where I can like sit down. So probably get up early and then I can film something. But yeah, I now am like exceptionally not looking forward to this movie. Like, I already was getting sort of like weirded out by the fact that I'm supposed to believe that she is an adult woman with a baby brain, like an infant's brain is in her head, and I'm just supposed to be fine with the fact that she her body remembers, so it's totally fine. Like, that weirds me out so much. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Like, I just don't. Like, I don't get it. And the argument's like, she doesn't feel any shame about anything. I'm like, cause she's not mature enough. And I don't think you should feel shame about sexual desires or anything like that, as long as it's not hurting anyone. But like, how is this safe in the development of a being who is essentially a new life? They're just letting, like, do things that she should not be mentally or psychologically capable of understanding. Like, what's happening? I don't like it. I haven't watched the movie yet. I should not make assumptions. But still, after reading that book, I don't know. But, I need to go chill. I really did not like that book. I don't even give stars, and I would give that a 1 star. Like, 1 star. Done. Just 1. It gets 1, and that's solely for the letter from Victoria. If not, I would just be like, the book is unreadable nonsense, which is mean. Okay, I understand. That's very mean. I'm sure there are people who like it. I do. I just was exceptionally frustrated by it. And, like, I'm fine, even taking into account that it's supposed to be satire, so fine. Be very wordy. Do a lot of things that, like, Victorian works would do, where they hit you over the head with, like, explanations of the history, explanations of political parties, all of that jazz. But, like, it's just too long. It's too long. And your female protagonist is only ever interacting with men or, like, motherly women. And we're not seeing her, like, really interacting with peers or, like, seeming, if she, like, getting a chance to interact with women who could help her understand and grow her own knowledge outside of men. And I just, I'm gonna stop talking. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna watch the movie tomorrow, and I will give you my thoughts. And I'm very sorry that I am so upset about this book. I did not think I would be. I was like, okay, got into the letter. It's better. I'm liking it more. I get it. This is fine. But I'm just annoyed. Like, the weird footnote things just made me annoyed. Okay, I really gotta go. Sorry I'm venting. I'm sure so many people like this book. It had so many good reviews. I'm sure so many people really enjoy what this is doing, or like really can get into the character, or like the development of Bella, or like the interaction she's having, or how she relates to the world with her childlike wonder. But I just can't, I can't get past all of the sex in a book where our main character technically does not have the mental capacity. Like, she has not had the mental experience, she has not had the experience of actual life, even if it's accelerated with how the brain is growing. Like, I don't see how she should be able to do certain things without, like, more explanation to her, someone to more guide her who is another woman. I just don't. Sorry, my asthma is acting up. But I just don't. Something about it just, like, bothers me. I think it would bother me less if there was less sex. Which, I'm sorry, I understand. The whole point is she's, like, not ashamed of herself. But the fact that she is supposedly able to consent because her body knows it's had sex before is such a weird argument to me. Like, it just feels gross. Like, something about it feels gross to me. I'm sorry. Like, I don't like it. Anyway, I gotta go. I'm just gonna keep venting about this, and I'm sure this is boring and annoying for people, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you like this book. I'm sorry if you're watching this and you think I'm being ridiculous. Something about it bothers me so much. I'm gonna go though. I'm gonna go and make dinner. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hang out with dogs, and that's what I'm gonna do. Next time you see me, I will have watched the movie, and I will try to not be so ragey. Maybe it'll surprise me. I'm gonna go. Okay, I just finished the movie, and my first comment is the dang thing is too long. I thought the book was too long. The movie, can we just, like, not have million-hour-long movies? Like, and I know I'm gonna do some comparing, contrasting. It's just too long. The movie is way too long, and they spend so much time on some things that just, like, were not critical to the story. So I'm adjusting my necklace because I can tell it's crooked. Okay, So the movie itself, because I have gone over the book, so you know the basis of the book already, but in the movie, God is actually like a teacher at the school instead of just sort of like doing his own thing. On top of that, he actually looks like what you would assume Frankenstein's monster would kind of look like. He also at some point says he's a eunuch. He never made Bella to love her. He just wanted to like parent her. And he does mention that like he basically says his father experimented on him a bunch and he is now a eunuch, which he's not in the book. He's not a eunuch. He's also like sick because of all the experiments his father did on him, which as we know in the book is not how his character is. He was not experimented on. He is sickly, depending on the version you read. Now his father could have done something that we don't know about, but like way different, just way different. He also can eat food, but also has to like take digestive something. It's fine. He is just very different. The house is very different. Instead of having dogs around like he does in the book, there are these like Frankensteinian animals, like dog with a duck head and chicken with the Frenchie head and like, oh, a siren. Look at that. I live near a fire station. Have I mentioned that? I'm not gonna stop. I'm just gonna keep going. So like it is far more Frankensteinian and like I don't think that's a word. I'm just gonna keep using it. I don't care. Also the setting is more like the book itself is set in like Victorian times. Like you're supposed to anticipate that it's like Victorian England, but like this one is set in sort of like a fantastical world. Like everything feels very like H.G. Wells presents London. Like things are just different. Elements are similar to the book in terms of setting, but like the cruise ship is fantastical looking. The house that everyone is in is fantastical looking, very Tim Burton-y in a sense, but like H.G. Wells stuck out in my mind because he was writing things like this and he is actually mentioned in the source material. So God in this is completely different because as we know in the book, he did actually make Bella to be his wife. Like he was going to be, like they were going to be companions after she had grown to a certain age or like matured enough, I guess. Also in this one, they change Candle's name. So we're just gonna call him Candle. They change his name and he's also a student at the school who's actually kind of obsessed with Godwin. So it does sort of make sense with Victoria's letter from the end of the book where she's like, he was obsessed with him, he actually loved him. Candle in this is very invested in God's work. So he becomes his like assistant and he's monitoring Bella. And so that's how he comes to know Bella. And then actually Bella is not the one to suggest marriage. He doesn't suggest marriage. It's totally God who's like, oh, you two should marry. You should do that. We'll write up a thing. You'll get married. You'll have to live here with her forever. So that's how the lawyer gets introduced. Oh my gosh, what is happening today? Goodness gracious. So that's how the lawyer gets introduced in this. It's not God's like will being done. It's actually him writing some kind of elaborate marriage agreement. And so that's when Wedderburn, played by Mark Ruffalo in this, appears. So in this one, he is even creepier. Like, it's just so gross in the movie. He like touches her intimately the minute he meets her. And like, while I know in the book, their relationship is all sex all the time. That's really all it is. That's all Bella wants from it is sex because she is very sexual. The movie makes her even more sexual in the book than the book did, I think, because while she discussed sexuality, she does continue to get that position in Paris. In the book, we like know she has had sexual relations, she has been with people, but in this, we're constantly seeing her like with herself, pleasuring herself, being pleasured by numerous men, which again, totally fine. She's even pleasured by some women, and that is fine. That's totally fine. Still, it's just so much sexual content that it makes the book feel oddly manic pixie dream sex girl. Like, the movie still did. I have no idea what's going on. There are so many sirens. I have no idea. It's a fire truck and cop cars. Yes, I know the difference by sound because it's at fire station. But anyway, I'm leaving that in. It's very noisy around here sometimes. So, the movie is too long because it's very focused on having so much sexual content in it. We watch her in Paris for a very long time. And again, I understand we want to like see her doing that, but the goal of her story is really to show her evolving as a human. Like she's learning, she's growing. And yes, her working in that Paris hotel is important, But also in the movie, it's forever. And she's not actually there that long in the book. She's there for like a little bit, and then she goes back to England because she needs to talk to God about the baby scar. But in this, it's just, she's there for so long, and she only even goes back because Godwin is dying, which is not how the book went, but fine. It's just like, it's so much focused on like the sexuality of Bella, and in the movie, they avoid talking about how old she is mentally. They avoid it. They don't mention it at all. And I'm just like, are you trying to avoid the ick? Because we do know that it's an infant brain in her head, and she's learning and understanding, and sexual discovery is part of human growth, but it's so focused on Bella being very sexual, being very fine with sex, which is again okay, but like it's so much time focusing on this woman having sex when that is not actually the whole point of the story. The point of the story is that Bella is growing, evolving, and she wants to be a doctor. We don't even get that Bella becomes a doctor officially at the end. She's taking her anatomy exam, and she's done surgery on a human in the movie. And in the book, we at least like learn all the history of Victoria and what she went on to do. But I'm just like, Bella. She's going by Bella. In the book, she changes her name. But like, it's just a lot of sexual content that like made the movie so long. Like, I don't care about these dudes. I don't care about any of the dudes she was with in Paris. It's so boring. It was boring. Like, I understand they wanted it in there, but still, it was so boring. Like, it just stretched the movie out so much. So in the movie, instead of the wedding almost happening and then not, and then she still gets married to Max, which I believe is going to happen. Max is Candle's name in the movie. So like in the book, I talked about how Victoria's father and husband arrive. That kind of happens. The husband arrives with the lawyer when she returns, and there are elements that are still similar. We do learn a bit about what happened to her prior to jumping off the bridge, but instead they have her go with the husband and leave the wedding so she can learn about him, and she actually detests him, and then he winds up having surgery performed on him. So it's different. It is changed, which is fine. I actually don't mind that she goes with him because they want to give us more like danger at the end, because he's going to have surgery performed on her, the surgery he wanted previously, which is also mentioned in the book. It's a, I'm gonna say it wrong, clitoralectomy, I believe is what they call it in all of that. And he was going to do that previously, and now he's doing it because he has her back in his clutches and he thinks it will cure her brain. So that's what's going on. So there's a lot of focus on sex, and I think what bothers me the most is the book is written by a man. So it's a man writing about sex with a character who, again, in the book, does not have the mental age of an adult, because she's still growing, she's still learning. The brain is not her original brain. It is an infant's brain. In the movie, they avoid talking about that, but it is still all very focused on the sexuality of Bella and Bella having sex and Bella exploring sex, which again is fine, but gives this like very like, it's the manic pixie dream girl energy that I'm getting from her in this. They also have her dressing in like attire that she would not have dressed in the book, but kind of works, I guess, in this society where, in this like version of the world where everything is kind of magical-y, I'm gonna say, but like it's an evolved steampunky-esque kind of thing, so she can get away with being in shorts when she wouldn't wear shorts in the real timeline and all of that. But they are different. I didn't get as angry at the movie as I did at the book, which is good. There's so many changes, which are fine. The movie gives it a more Frankensteinian element. So like if you want a Frankenstein story, I would say just watch the movie because it has more Frankenstein aspects. There are technically 2 different monster creator stories going on that were being told. I guess 3 if you count the ending. The movie also introduces a second creation of gods named Felicity, which was very surprising. I think really just so we could have something for God and Candle to be doing while Bella is off in Paris and other places. I appreciate that we have the 2 people who are teaching Bella about philosophy and the world on the ship, but also I also did appreciate that it was a woman and a man of color as opposed to the 2 white dudes that we get in the book. But it's a lot of sex for a story that I don't think actually needs to be that focused on sex. Now it can be, because in the book, working in Paris also pushes Bella to want to be a doctor because she wants women to be examined in a way that is more comfortable, that makes more sense to her, as opposed to having men examine them in this like violent way. And that does make sense. In the movie though, that doesn't really seem to play into her desire to be a doctor. It's all God. God is why she wants to be a doctor. And I'm just like, but you also wanted to help women. And I really wish that that story was in the movie, where we at least had that in the book. So it bothers me that they amped up the sexual content so much in the movie and then just sort of like removed the I want to help other women as a doctor, because that's really what she wants to do. So that does bother me. But I would say the movie is probably a better Frankenstein story for me than the book. So if you want a Frankenstein story, watch the movie. Maybe take an intermission in the middle to get some snacks or something, because it is so freaking long. It's just too long. It is too long. They needed to edit it. Can we not make 90-minute movies? Like, I just want a solid 90-minute movie, dang it. I just think it's too long. But I will say the book infuriated me. I'm not reading it again. I'm not watching this movie again. But I at least think some of the elements of Bella's growth, if I discount the mental age elements, I like Bella's story of becoming a doctor to help women a little bit more in that aspect. But Bella is still going to become a doctor in the movie. So I suppose that's fine. It's just a different story. It's a monster creator, monster creator, monster creator kind of thing. So very, very Frankenstein. The movie is very Frankenstein. The book is more kind of Frankenstein, more about a woman and her journey, I suppose, if that makes sense. So I don't know. This wasn't a great comparison. Some of it is still there. They keep bits from the book, letters. They even use some sort of like odd intermission-y sort of things, like chapter picture sort of things in the movie to tie into those illustrations, I think. Neither one was my favorite. The movie was fine. Too long, but overall fine. It, again, did not make me as angry as the book. I just think the story is ultimately different. The movie is a lot of the sexualization of Bella, and while that is also in the book at least ties it into her wanting to go into women's health, focusing on women, whereas in the movie we're not really getting that. We're getting that she wants to be more like God. So it's just a different story. The one thing I will say about the movie that really annoyed me right at the jump is, for some reason, they have Candle call Bella the R word, even though it's not in the book. Technically, it is a word that could have been used at that time, but we're not even in the actual time period. We're in a sort of fictionalized version of that time period. So I don't know why he doesn't call her something else. Just something that's not offensive. Like, I was just like, what was the point of that word? Yeah, that like right away I was like, I'm not gonna like this. And it was fine. Again, it was fine. It was a fine movie. It was okay. It did give me, this happens when I watch a lot of Oscar movies. It gave me Oscar vibes. It's too long. There's too much focus on certain things that they think will get nominations. That's what I feel. And so I can sometimes tell when a movie is like, oh, we could really get an Oscar if we just like did this. And I just don't care. Like, condense it down. Just make it shorter. It could have been shorter. Overall, it's fine. Again, I will say, if you want a more Frankenstein story, watch the movie. You can read the book. It's fine. I think the book is annoying. I just don't like it. But those are my thoughts. I hope that comparison was helpful. I feel like they changed the story for the movie enough that it's not really fully the same thing. So yeah, it's inspired by. It's definitely an inspired by, not a straight adaptation. I also kind of wish they had done Victoria's letter and they didn't, but that wouldn't have worked for the movie. But yeah, so those are my thoughts. Did you watch / read Poor Things? I'm curious. I'm very curious to know people who watched it and then read it, what their thoughts are. So if you did that, or if you saw it and didn't read it, I'd love to know your thoughts. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of either. Movie was fine. Give it a solid meh rating. And the book I hated. I hated it, even though I am giving it, I will give it that 1 star for the story of Bella becoming that she becomes very dedicated to like women and their health instead of like experimental Frankenstein science. But the experimental Frankenstein science works better in the movie. So there you go. But I'm gonna go. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Or if you want to see me talk about more random book related things or just pop culture things, you can subscribe. I'm also on Instagram at CliffGoEverAfter. And yeah, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sorry it was full of rambling and me being like about a lot of things. But yeah, so I will talk to you later. Bye internet people.